Okay, Matthew, it's news or noise time. You've been complaining all season that Russell Wilson doesn't run the ball anymore. Well, on Sunday, he ran for 92 yards, his most since 2014. Russell Wilson running. Is this news or noise for Week 10?
Look, this is news, right? Wilson's lack of rushing, big reason why he was disappointing fantasy-wise earlier in the season. Looks like that's finally changing. Get this. Over 63% of Wilson's rushing yards this entire year have come in the last 2 games. Now the passing volume still isn't there, okay? But at least the rushing is starting to make up for it. And Wilson, very quietly, has 3 touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 games. My expectation is the rushing will continue. Felt like Wilson was maybe hiding a hamstring injury, was a little bit banged up, but now feels like he needs to open it up a little bit more. And as Seattle has been a run-first team, listen, that's going to continue. Part of the running, Russell Wilson. So my expectation is he's going to be a solid QB1, maybe not the top 3 guy that you drafted, but still a solid QB1. I think it's news to see him rush for over 90 yards in a game where we know the Seahawks have to put up points, and I think that's going to continue. All right, Daniel, who's next?
All right, next up, Josh Adams only had 7 carries last night for the Eagles, but that was as many as Corey Clement and Wendell Smallwood combined. Josh Adams, is he news or noise for that Eagles backfield?
I think this is kind of news-ish. Second straight game in which Adams has led the Eagles in both carries and rushing yards. He's averaging over 6.7 yards per carry in that span. Super small sample size, but this is a guy that was really good in the preseason as well. You think about Corey Clement and Wendell Smallwood, both under 3 yards per carry since Josh Adams has emerged, okay? He already has 4 runs this season of 16-plus yards, which is amazing when you think about the fact that he's only played a few games. And that's more than all the other Eagles running backs combined. He's clearly the most explosive player in the backfield right now. I expect his usage to increase going forward, especially after we heard Doug Peterson compare Adams to Jay Ajayi. So I think you're looking, look, it's still going to be a committee on a pass-first team, but I think he's the lead back of that committee. And you look at his size, 6'2", 225, like this is a guy that's going to get into the end zone a few times. I could see them using him in some goal-to-grow rushes as well. So I think it's more news than not. Thank you, Secret Squirrel. Who's next?
All right, Colts tight ends combined for 4 touchdowns on Sunday, but somehow Jack Doyle didn't account for a single one.
Yeah.
Eric Ebron had 3, including a rushing touchdown. Mo Alley-Cox had the other one. News or noise that Jack Doyle didn't get any touchdowns in Week 10?
All right, well, let's start with Doyle because he was the guy that was starting the most of the leagues. And I'm going to say this is noise, right? He was still second on the team. This is Jack Doyle now. Still second on the team in routes run, right? And since his return from injury in Week 8, Doyle run more routes, played more snaps than both Eric Ebron and Mo Alley-Cox combined. The opportunity is still very much there. What is news, however, is the general involvement of the Colts tight ends collectively. Andrew Luck has targeted tight ends more than any other quarterback in the NFL this year. 12 of his last 17 touchdowns have gone to the position. I expect that trend to continue moving forward. I like Jack Doyle the most of any of them, but Eric Ebron, look, now he's basically a touchdown-dependent option, right? Still has value given his role in the end zone. He's not getting a ton of looks, but when he is looking, he's getting into the end zone. So, look, just like we talked about with Jimmy Graham, let's talk about with like a lot of those tight ends that are outside the elite guys. He's a touchdown-dependent tight end, and given Luck throwing to the tight end as much as he does, he's got a better shot than others to get into the end zone occasionally. But I still prefer Doyle over Ebron going forward. All right, who's next?
All right, next we have Donte Moncrief, 98 yards and a score, including an 80-yard catch and run. His 18.8 fantasy points were good for 15th at the position through Sunday's games. Donte Moncrief, news or noise from Week 10?
Yeah, I think this is mostly noise. Only had 4 targets and 3 catches all game. One of those catches, the 80-yard touchdown, was a major outlier. All that said about Donte Moncrief, he has recorded double-digit fantasy points in 4 of the last 6. He still leads the team in snaps and routes run, so I think he, along with D.D. Westbrook, are the only Jaguars receivers worth rostering right now. I'd have both Moncrief and Westbrook as low-end flex plays moving forward, but the return of Leonard Fournette, to me, means that this is a Jaguars team that's going to be run first. They got down big in this game, and they had to throw a lot, and even still, he only got 4 targets. So, honestly, I think it's mostly noise what he did there, but if you have to get a Jaguars receiver, I think it's D.D. Westbrook and Donte Moncrief. All right, who's up next week, Secret Squirrel?
Last one. Both Marcus Mariota and Corey Davis had top 6 finishes at their respective positions. The Titans have just been so tough to trust in fantasy this season. Are their Week 10 production, is that news or noise for Davis and Mariota?
I think this is news. Hey, tighten up, right? 2 good games in a row now for Marcus Mariota. Finally looks healthy. He's posted back-to-back games of at least 20 fantasy points for the first time since weeks 9 to 12 of 2016. Corey Davis, meanwhile, the second highest target share of any player in the entire NFL. He's finally converting that into real production. We talked about this in the podcast as well, Secret Squirrel. Davis had a brutal stretch of matchups earlier this year, some shutdown corners, but you look at his schedule in the second half, much more favorable. So I expect his continued play to keep improving, his fantasy points to continue going up. Remember, over the last 3 weeks, the Titans led the league in time possession, giving that offense many more opportunities to score. For all the latest fantasy football news and analysis, you can binge watch all the episodes of the Fantasy Show right now on ESPN+.